Hello everyone, Justin E. Paraditano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new Coldplay record, A Head Full of Dreams. Now, I know this record came out last year, but I have never reviewed a Coldplay album. This is the problem. Coldplay, for those of you who are aliens and have just come to Earth, and in that case, live long and prosper, are a British rock pop band formed by the lead singer Chris Parker and the lead guitarist Johnny Buckland. They've been around since 2000 with their debut, well-acclaimed, well-beloved album, Parachutes. One of their trademarks is a very soft, smooth, and overall pretty guitar that might as well be synth for how watered down it usually is. Usually very soupy, very reverby, very thick production, and sort of a wishy-washy instrumentation. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. Like A Rush of Blood to the Head, that was the album that really established Coldplay and what sound they were gonna have, and that was great. And of course they deviate from this sound on every album. Like on the record, Viva La Vida or Death and All His Friends was a fantastic album because of its diversity and sort of hints of grit. Like on the track Violet Hill, a little bit more guitar. Then in 2011 they released the record Milo Xyloto, which I personally am pretty indifferent to. It's very poppy, very sugar-coated, very colorful. And I know a lot of fans were mixed, like some fans weren't really satisfied with it. And their most recent release before A Head Full of Dreams was Ghost Stories, and that was very somber, very calm, very sad, and it kind of set the stage for this new record. Which brings us to this album, which is, as Chris Parker described it, the day to the night that was Ghost Stories. Before I go in depth with any of these tracks, I want to say that many artists recently have angered fans by inching too much into the mainstream, by watering down an original sound to make it appeal to the most amount of people. But on the other hand, we also don't want artists to be repetitive or to make the same sound over and over again. This is a difficulty that Coldplay is no stranger to, and it's one they face on this new album. The goal of this record, I suppose, was to keep the same sort of low-key vibe from Ghost Stories, but to uplift it, make it more lighthearted, and the result sounds a lot like Milo, actually. And unlike what the album cover might suggest, this album is not all fun and games, like on the track Fun, which takes the cake for the most misleading title of a track. Instead of a light-hearted fun track like the title might suggest, we have this very somber, very bittersweet instrumentation talking about nostalgia and things ending. Then we have the song Up and Up, featuring vocals from the singer Tove Lo and sort of distant piano and poppy percussion, and we hear Chris singing about how we can't just wait for good things to rain down upon us. We have to actively work towards making our life better. These were good little reliefs from the very colorful and flamboyant sound of this record, sort of like taking a step back and looking at life. The album starts off pretty explosively and colorfully with the beginning track A Head Full of Dreams, and I will take this opportunity to point out the motif of the head or the mind in a lot of Coldplay's music, talking about a head full of dreams, or a rush of blood to the head, or how you're always in my head. Am I the only one who noticed that? Is that a thing? Anyway, A Head Full of Dreams is catchy and fun enough, but there's not really anything to set it apart. It's fun and fast-paced, but at the same time kind of boring. Then, I'm excited to talk about this one. Then we have the song Everglow, which is the piano ballad from this album. The intro honestly sounds like the soundtrack to an infomercial or a romantic comedy or something. And the chorus on this track, the way he's reaching for those high notes and his voice is straining, shows like this passionate vulnerability towards the person he's missing. And I feel like I should hate it, but I just don't. There's a part towards the 1 minute mark of this song where piano and distant guitar are threaded together beautifully. And the piano rhythms and the simplicity of this track is just irresistible and irreplaceable. Speaking of irreplaceable, the queen herself, Beyonce, makes quite a prominent appearance on the track A Hymn for the Weekend. This song is interesting because I can definitely hear some Beyonce influence and attitude mixed with the normal Coldplay tropes. It's very dynamic with a very booming rhythm. But the main complaint I have with this song are the lyrics. Sure, Coldplay have never been amazing at lyrics, but really, comparing your love to alcohol seems out of place. Then we have the tracks Army of One and Adventure of a Lifetime that starts out with similar synthetic vocal melodies that sort of remind me of Churches, as in the band Churches. The guitar work on Adventure of a Lifetime fits perfectly with the song and is exactly what I expect from Coldplay, whereas Army of One is more synth-driven. Several Coldplay albums feature a hidden track or a song that was placed after another but in the same track. On Parachutes it was Life is for the Living. On Ghost Stories it was on the track Oh, but it was unnamed. And on this record it's called X Marks the Spot, and it's just trying too hard to be cool and hip and dark, and it just does not work. And Chris Parker's vocals do not sound good at all on this song. I could just envision a toddler like putting on sunglasses and a leather jacket that's way too big for him and like sauntering out, trying to look like he's the next big thing, like he's cool, but just doesn't work. These tracks flow perfectly together, and yet Coldplay manages to keep it interesting and achieves some interesting differences between these tracks, which is a complaint I had on Ghost Stories. That being said, I'm never really blown away by any of these tracks, and some of them can be dismissed as lazy or uneventful, like the track Birds or Amazing Day, which never really, they're not bad songs, they just don't catch my attention a lot. However, overall, I think Coldplay delivered a very satisfying addition to their discography. I'll give this album an 80%. My favorite song being Everglow, and my least favorite song being X Marks the Spot.